Alfred, you're not trying to talk back. Oh. Hello and welcome to the news here on Global TV in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I'm Muyi Agumofwegbe. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has said his administration will repay Nigerians through massive investment in transportation, infrastructure, education, regular power supply, healthcare, and other public utilities that will improve the quality of lives. He made this known during his first National and Democracy Day broadcast while asking Nigerians to sacrifice a little more for the country's survival, assuring that the sacrifice of fuel subsidy removal shall not be in vain. President Tinubu said the removal of fuel subsidy is to alleviate poverty and free up for collective use the much-needed resources which had hitherto been pocketed by a few rich. The president admitted that the decision will impose an extra burden on the people, but he feels the pain of the masses.
On May 29, I gave effect to the decision taken by my predecessor in office to remove the fuel subsidy, the albatross, and free up the collective use of much needed resources, which had hitherto been pocketed by a few rich. I admit the decision will impose extra burden on the masses of our people. I feel your pain. This is one decision we must bear to save our country from going under and take our resources away from the stranglehold of a few unpatriotic elements. Painfully, I have asked you, my compatriots, to sacrifice a little more for the survival of our country. For your trust and belief in us, I assure you that your sacrifice shall not be in vain. The government I lead will repay you through massive investment in transportation, infrastructure, education, regular power supply, healthcare, and other public utilities that will improve the quality.
President Tinubu recounts that the fierce opposition to the annulment of the June 12, 1993 presidential election and the unrelenting pro-democracy onslaught it unleashed was the equivalent of the battle against the colonial rule by the nation's founding fathers that resulted in the gaining of Nigeria's independence in 1960. The president said the democracy MKO Abiola died for is one that promotes the welfare of the people over the personal interests of the ruling class, and one where the governed can find personal fulfillment and happiness. Tinubu added that Nigerians must never take this democracy for granted and forever jealously guard and protect it like a precious jewel. As we turn to other stories now, the Department of State Services, DSS, has confiscated the passports of the suspended Central Bank Governor, Godwin Emefiele, following his suspension on Friday as a result of the ongoing investigation of his office and the planned reforms in the financial sector. The service arrested Emefiele in Lagos and flew him to Abuja. The spokesperson for the service, Peter Afunaya, in a statement said Emefiele had been taken into custody and was under investigation. However, a source in the DSS said it was standard procedure for his travel documents to be seized pending the conclusion of the ongoing investigation. The source added that the office and residence of the suspended Apex Bank governor would be searched. Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has sued President Bola Tinubu over alleged failure to probe allegations that $2.1 billion and 3.1 trillion naira of oil revenue budgeted as fuel subsidy are missing and unaccounted for between 2016 and 2019. The suit followed reported revelations by the Auditor General of the Federation in the 2016 and 2019 yearly reports that the aforementioned funds are missing. Serap is seeking an order of Madamas to direct and compel to promptly probe the allegations and direct anti-corruption agencies to urgently investigate fuel subsidy payments made by successive administrations since return to democracy in 1999. To name, shame, and prosecute suspected perpetrators and recover proceeds of crime. In the lawsuit filed by its lawyers, Kolawole Oluwadare Adelanko, Aremo and Valencia Adegoke, as well as Ayomide Johnson, the group said that this would be no economic growth or sustainability without accountability for human rights crimes. No date has, however, been fixed for hearing of the suit. Nigeria Governors Forum (NGF) has endorsed the zoning arrangement of the All Progressives Congress (APC) for the election of the presiding officers of the National Assembly. Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State said in a statement after receiving a delegation of the Joint Task 10th Assembly, Abiodun said that he and his colleagues took the decision after an interactive session with President Bola Tinubu in Abuja. President Tinubu had sought the support of the governors for the APC candidates to make the election easier for them. The Kwara State Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak has approved the deployment of government buses to support movement of students and workers in public tertiary institutions within the Ilorin metropolis and in its environs. The bus rollout is the second phase of the measures being put in place by the Kwara State government to cushion the effects of the fuel subsidy removal. The government had earlier reduced working days for civil servants from 5 to 3 days every week, while bureaucrats work out their measures for workers that are exempted from the policy. A government house statement signed by the governor's chief press secretary, Rafiu Ajakaye, said for Wednesday, June 14, some large buses will be deployed to transport students of public tertiary institutions within the metropolis, including those going to the Kwara State University campus, Malete. Further details will be released by the coordinating ministries, agencies, and departments. You're watching the news here on Global TV, coming to you live on StarTimes channel 276 from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. You can follow us across our social media platforms. The handle is at Global TV NG. More stories coming your way after this break. Be sure to stay with us. Thank you everyone for staying with us. Let's now turn to business. Oil marketers are currently converting some of their trucks to start supplying gas to filling stations in order to dispense compressed natural gas, otherwise called CNG, to vehicles that run on gas. About 800 tankers that formerly transported petrol to filling stations were being converted by marketers to start moving gas to retail outlets. The federal government had been pushing for the use of CNG by motorists as against the widespread consumption of PMS. Gas, according to operators, was not only cheaper than subsidized petrol, but was cleaner and very abundant in Nigeria. The National President, Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, Chinedu Okonkwo, said some of its members had started signing up to dispense gas at their stations, as well as the collocation of gas in their outlets. President of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, CITN, Adesina Adebayo, has engaged federal lawmakers towards strengthening its advocacy and contributing to national development. Adesina said this at the Institute's 31st yearly general meeting, where he emphasized that CITN's continued relationship with critical stakeholders, including the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the Joint Task Board, and professional bodies within the Association of Professional Bodies of Nigeria, APBN. Giving an update on operational activities and global economy assessment during the period under review, the CITN chief said the outlook remained uncertain amid heightened global recession risk. And now on the foreign scene, Amnesty International has called on Senegalese authorities to carry out independent investigations into the deadly violence during protests last week, saying at least 23 people had died. The Sudanese government, through its Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has declared the United Nations UN envoy to the country, Volker Perthes, to be persona non grata, meaning it no longer recognizes his position in Sudan. The head of the Sudanese Armed Forces and Sudan's de facto leader, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, recently accused Mr. Perthes of stoking the country's conflict. He demanded he be replaced. Before the start of the conflict between the army and its paramilitary rival, the Rapid Support Forces, in April, the UN mission in Sudan had been targeted by protests denouncing alleged foreign interference. Mr. Perthes was in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, for a series of diplomatic talks, according to the UN mission's Twitter feed. Angolan President João Lourenço has sacked the minister responsible for economic and social development following protests triggered by the government's decision to end fuel subsidies. He replaced Manuel Nunes Jr., a seasoned minister economics professor, with the central bank governor, José de Lima Massano. The withdrawal of the subsidies, which Mr. Nunes Jr. said was aimed at cutting government spending, came into effect on 1st of June, leading into a steep rise in fuel prices. The oil-rich nation has since experienced a wave of protests, with more expected over the weekend. 5 people have died and 8 injured after police opened fire on a group of protesters in the city of Huambo. Angola is one of the largest oil exporters in sub-Saharan Africa. Let's get some kick out of sports now. Inter Milan coach Simone Inzaghi has insisted the Italian giant will be back in the Champions League final after losing 1-0 to Manchester City today. Inter Milan went into the match as underdogs but pulled a shocker, holding Guardiola's men in a match that turned out to be a very even and decided by a long goal scored by Rodri in the 60th minute. With City overwhelming favourites going into the Atatürk Stadium in Istanbul, the Nazaruzzi pulled a resilient performance and had several chances to equalize and win the match, but the woodwork and the spectacular Ederson in goal for Citizens denied them a goal in the game. Aba-based heavyweight Eyimba International FC on Sunday emerged champions of the 2022-2023 Nigeria Professional Football League (NPFL) after playing a 1-1 draw against the defending champions Rivers United in the Super 6 playoffs. Former Remo Stars player Ekene Awazie opened the scoring with the only goal for the People's Elephants in the 40th minute. Rivers United FC restored parity through Inyema Onwangwa in the second half. Despite the Yima Wangwa of Rivers United restoring parity in the second half, the 40th minute goal from former Remo Stars player Ekene Awazie was enough for the People's Elephant to finish top of the Super 6 playoffs with 9 points at the top of the log, same points as Remo Stars, but with a wider goal margin. The Finidi George side had now won the league record time. And that's it for the news here on Global TV in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Remember, we're on StarTimes channel 276, and you can follow us across our social media platforms at Global TV NG. Thank you so very much for watching. I am Uyi Agmofwegwe. Global Morning starts right now.
Global Television, building the nation.
Assalamu